in our plan to make life more affordable for families. Les libéraux sont les seuls
Liberals are the only ones fighting for the middle class and people working hard to join it. On October 21st, people will have a choice between going back to the past or continuing to move forward. But before we go any further, let's look at how we got this far. In 2015, Canadians chose a team that was ready to invest in people. We rejected the Conservatives' cuts and austerity, and the results are clear. More than 1 million jobs, most full-time, were created. 900,000 people, including 300,000 children, are no longer living in poverty.
Tax cuts for the middle class, more money for parents under the Canada Child Benefit, a strengthened Canada Pension Plan, stronger environmental protection. These are big changes that matter. And soon, Canadians will once again get to vote for the kind of Canada they want to live in. This fall, we've all got a choice to make. Keep moving forward and build on the progress we've made, or go back to the politics of the Harper years. Andrew Scheer is recycling Harper's old ideas because he doesn't have any new ones to meet the challenges of today. Conservatives like to say they're for the people, but then they cut taxes for the wealthy and cut services for everybody else. But as Canadians well know, that's the wrong approach to take, because you can't cut your way to prosperity. Liberals know that investing in people and in their communities is the most effective way to grow the economy, create jobs, and position Canada for the future. And today, we're doing even more to help Canadians get ahead. Over the last 4 years, I've been lucky to meet with Canadians, like the Minas family, from coast to coast to coast. They've told me that our policies for families and workers are making a real difference in their lives. But we have to realize that the cost of living is going up. Housing, groceries, bills, childcare, these things have always been big line items in the monthly budget, and families are really feeling the crunch. Everyday essentials are getting more expensive, and wages aren't rising fast enough to keep up. Far too many Canadians are living paycheck to paycheck. Conservatives, meanwhile, have no plan for working people, hoping that tax cuts to their corporate friends will somehow trickle down to middle-class workers. Well, we Liberals know that that isn't right. We need to help make life more affordable for working people. So here's what we're going to do about it. To start, a re-elected Liberal government will make sure the middle class and those working hard to join it have more money tax-free. Under our plan, middle-class Canadians won't pay taxes on the first $15,000 of income they earn. This will save the average Canadian $292 every single year, while an average middle-class family will get $585. Unlike the Conservatives, Liberals will not give the richest 1% a tax break because we believe in helping the families who actually need it. Andrew Scheer thinks wealthy families like his and mine should get a break, but I disagree. I think you should get the break. Our plan lowers taxes the most for people who make less, gives the middle class some breathing room, and ensures that the wealthy don't get an extra hand up. With this tax cut, we'll lift about 40,000 people out of poverty, twice as many as the Conservative plan, and make life more affordable for Canadians. But I know we can do even more to help workers and families. When I meet with Canadians, there's one thing that's near universal. Everyone complains that they're paying too much for cell phone service. Bills that hit hundreds of dollars aren't unheard of, and the data backs it up. Right now, Canadian cell phone plans are among the most expensive in the G7. That's a real problem for teens who need to keep in touch with their parents, or new grads who struggle to afford the cell phone that's required for their job. It's a problem for the family of 4 who have to juggle a mortgage and groceries on top of an expensive family plan. It's a problem for the single senior who wants to chat with their grandkids, but is already strapped for cash in retirement. Canadians shouldn't have to choose between having a cell phone and heating their homes. So we need to get to a place where the cost of cell service is more affordable. That's why a re-elected Liberal government will cut cell phone bills by 25%, saving the average Canadian family of 4 up to $976 a year. Canadians work hard, and they deserve to sleep easy at night. By lowering taxes and cutting cell phone bills, our Liberal team will put more than $1,500 a year back in the pockets of Canadian hardworking families.
Canadians work hard and they deserve to sleep soundly at night. By lowering taxes and cutting cell phone bills, our Liberal team will put more than $1,500 per year back in the pockets of hard-working Canadian families. In this election campaign, let's remember that politics is first and foremost about serving people, not serving multinationals, major polluters, or lobbyists. The idea is to help people to succeed, to help mothers and fathers, students and workers, children and seniors. Because in the end of the day, Canada succeeds only when Canadians succeed. And we are the only team to have a real plan to make life more affordable and help families make ends meet.
A new Liberal government will increase access to before and after school care. We'll ensure that all Canadians can take paid family leave when they have a baby. We'll ban military-style assault rifles and strengthen gun control. We'll make it easier to buy your first home and give more money to seniors for retirement. And today, we announce another big piece of our Liberal plan, a fairer tax system and cheaper cell phone bills. In this election, Canadians have a choice to make. Will we go back to the failed policies of the Conservative past, or will we continue to move forward? We'll have a lot more to say on the environment this coming week, but here's what you need to know now. Unlike the Conservatives, Liberals won't give tax breaks to the 1% or to the big polluters. But what we will do is make life more affordable for Canadians and fight climate change. That's what we're offering, a real plan to move forward for everyone. Merci beaucoup tout le monde.
Mr. Trudeau, Glenn McGregor, CBC News. I want to ask you about the cell phone pricing. As you know, cell phone rates are set in the market. How, without regulating prices or dictating prices to those companies, how can you force them to lower their prices by a specific target of 25%? Especially at a time when you're counting on them to build out the 5G network and expand services to the north and other hard-to-reach communities.
We have been and are going to continue to make significant investments in expanding rural and northern broadband coverage. We know that all Canadians need to have access to the internet and to cellular service if they are going to survive and thrive in this new economy. But we also know that Canadians pay too much for their cell phone bills. That is why we are going to engage with companies so that they reduce by 25% their bills, their fees over the next 2 years. And we will strengthen and bring in further competition into the market if they are unable to achieve that. We know that greater competition will reduce prices, and we're going to use the levers we need to use to make sure that families can afford their cell phone bills. What we're not going to do is lower taxes for the wealthiest and cut taxes for big polluters. That's what the Conservatives are going to do. We're going to invest in families, and we're going to move forward for everyone.
Bonjour, Monsieur Trudeau. C'est la semaine sur le climat cette semaine.
Now,
Est-ce qu'on devrait
this is the
connaître
Climate
toutes les
Action
mesures
Week.
environnementales des libéraux cette semaine?
Should we be hearing about the Liberal about all their climate action measures this week? Yes, we obviously understand that it's necessary to have a plan to fight climate change, not only for families, not only for the future, but for the economy as well. The Conservatives, again, want to give tax cuts to the wealthiest 1% and the big polluters. We will invest in families. And in terms of your presence, will you be at the General Assembly in New York, or will you be in the streets of Montreal with those demonstrating? We will not be going to the UN during this election campaign. We will remain in Canada to talk to Canadians, and particularly to talk about the very important choice facing Canadians. But I will participate in the climate strike action this week.
We will not be going to the United Nations during an election campaign. We're going to be talking with Canadians about our plan to fight climate change and to invest in the future of our kids and grandkids. Unlike the Conservatives, who don't believe in pricing pollution, who want to lower taxes for the 1% and the biggest polluters, we are going to invest instead in a stronger future for Canadians and their families. I will be making large announcements and participating in many events for the environment this week.
Hi, Mr. Trudeau. Marika Walsh with the Globe and Mail. I'm wondering if you can speak specifically, going back to your gun plans from Friday. A Globe investigation shows a complete patchwork of data on gun crimes and also a lot of holes. What will you do to address that? What will you do to get better data?
One of the things we all learned from 10 years of Conservative government were the cuts to data, the cuts to evidence-based policy, not just a long-form census, but in many ways the cuts to understanding how guns were getting into this country and how criminals were getting their hands on guns. But the choice is very simple for Canadians. Conservatives want to weaken gun laws. The Liberals want to strengthen them. That is how we keep our country safer.
So there is no question then on what you will do to better improve the data. I'm wondering if you want to address that again, and also if you want to talk how you will actually ensure that provinces with premiers who don't want a handgun ban, like in Ontario where the municipality wants it but the premier doesn't, how you will actually ensure one actually comes into place.
We are going to work with the provinces and territories and municipalities to ensure that municipalities have the opportunities to restrict handguns within their city limits. This is something that many Canadians are asking for, many municipalities are asking for, and we intend to move forward on that because we know that keeping Canadians safe is a priority for people right across the country. We've also made commitments on strengthening the data processing to prevent and to monitor bulk sales, particularly of handguns, and give the RCMP and other police officers the tools to actually monitor handguns and increase gun control in this country. We know that we need to strengthen gun control laws. The Conservatives are planning on weakening them. That's the choice that Canadians are facing.
Prime Minister, good afternoon. David Jungern from Reuters. Two big announcements in one day, tax cuts and lower cell phone bills. Seems like a pretty aggressive move to change the channel. How confident are you that the furore over the blackface photos will turn out to be short-lived?
We know that Canadians are concerned about affordability, and two of the big issues is being able to reduce taxes for the people who actually will benefit most from it, middle class and people working hard to join it, and making cell phone bills more affordable, making cell phone service more affordable. These are issues that have come up time and time for Canadians about significant challenges on affordability, and that's why we're moving forward to lower taxes and make cell phones more affordable. It's in direct contrast with the Conservative plan. The Conservatives plan on giving tax breaks to the wealthiest 1% and to big polluters. We're going to invest in families and in hardworking Canadians. That's the choice people are facing.
Abigail Beeman, Global News. Yesterday, Mayor Nenshi published a piece in the Washington Post, and he closed with, let's use Justin Trudeau's old blunders to think about the links between individual action and real justice. What do you think of that line, and what do you think of the piece in general?
I have been very forthright with Canadians on this issue, and I will continue to be. As a country, we need to keep working for diversity, working to fight racism and intolerance. And as an individual, I have to keep having really important conversations about choices made in the past and about how I earn once again the trust of Canadians that I hurt.
I understand that you can't say definitively how many times you've worn blackface. A lot has been made about the fact that that first photo was from 2001, which was 18 years ago. Can you say definitively that you haven't worn blackface since 2001?
I've been very clear with Canadians on this issue over the past number of days, and I will continue to be clear with Canadians. We're going to work together to build a brighter future, and that involves making important choices in this election about whether we cut taxes for the wealthiest 1%, cut taxes for big polluters, the way the Conservatives want to do, or whether we invest in Canadians and keep moving forward like we are doing.
Hi there, Salima Shivji, CBC News. As you're explaining to people from minority groups your actions and those photos in blackface, I'm sure a lot of people are asking when you realized it was racist and how, what moment really crystallized that? You've hinted that it was around the time that you were MP in Papineau. So are you saying that you realized that wearing blackface is racist in 2008?
The privilege of representing the community of Papineau, which is an extraordinary, diverse part of the country, where for the first time I got to visit a Gurdwara and sit down in a mosque. I got to engage with Canadians of every different background and understand the lived reality that so many Canadians who are of diverse origins face discrimination and racism every single day. And my commitment to continue to fight for them, to continue to stand against racism and discrimination, to move forward on the first ever strategy that explicitly recognizes anti-black racism, that recognizes unconscious bias and systemic discrimination. There is so much more we need to do as a country, and I will keep fighting for that every single day.
You say you can't say definitively how many times you wore blackface. Are you reaching out to anybody who may help you jog your memory?
I've been reaching out to community leaders, to friends and colleagues to talk about my actions, to talk about how I move forward, how Canadians can move forward, how this country can do a better job of fighting against racism and intolerance altogether. As a government, I take responsibility for my actions and I commit to Canadians to be a better ally in fighting discrimination and racism every single day.
I will continue to fight discrimination and racism. I have been meeting and listening to community leaders and people with very important views and perspectives so that I understand the challenges that minority members face every day. And I will continue to work very hard, and personally, I intend to always work hard to fight discrimination.
Chris Selly from the National Post. Does that work include addressing people within your party, especially in Quebec, some of your candidates and some of their staffers who just don't seem to think this is a big deal at all? They seem to think it's no problem at all that you wore blackface.
I think we've seen a broad range of reactions from across the country. The reality is, I know I particularly hurt people who are racialized, and that is where my focus is on, in demonstrating to those people that I continue to be an ally and that I understand how much work I and we as a country continue to have ahead of us. Okay. Je reconnais tout à fait à quel point il y a des différences de perspectives sur cet enjeu à travers le pays, mais pour moi ça souligne à quel point nous devons travailler ensemble pour défendre les droits des minorités et pour souligner qu'on peut toujours en tant que société faire mieux et que moi personnellement je peux certainement continuer à faire mieux.
I certainly intend to do better.
Prime Minister, good afternoon. Sanjeev Dhawan from Prime Minister Television. From the last couple of weeks, the pictures which have come that has created a difficulty in Canadians' minds that why they should trust you, that you are same person privately and publicly. And you have made billions of dollars of announcements in the last couple of weeks. In the last election, 2015, you promised that you will balance the books by 2019. My question is, why Canadians should trust you?
We made a promise to Canadians that we would put growth for the middle class and people working hard to join it at the center of everything we do. And that was our campaign in 2015. And that was the point of contrast with 10 years of Conservative government that thought that austerity and cuts and benefits to the wealthiest was the way to grow the economy. What we were able to show over the past 4 years by both seeing Canadians create over 1 million jobs and seeing 900,000 people, including 300,000 kids, lifted out of poverty, is that investing in communities, not cuts like Conservatives do, is the way to grow the economy. That's exactly what we're going to continue on. While Conservatives continue to offer tax breaks to the wealthiest and to big polluters, we're going to invest in people and in their families. That's what choosing forward means.
Karina Roman, CBC News. With all due respect, you did not answer the question about the timing of when it crystallized for you that what you did was wrong. And you talk a lot about your time as becoming an MP. Are you saying that was in 2008, that was when you started to realize it was wrong? Did it take that many years? If you could be a bit more specific, please.
I think there are a lot of Canadians through the past days who are reflecting on and learning more about the racist history of blackface. And that is something that certainly is something that we are all talking about, and I am certainly reflecting on deeply as we pledge ourselves as a party and as a government to move forward to continue to fight racism, discrimination, and intolerance wherever it may be found. Je pense qu'il y a des gens qui sont tous en train de réfléchir sur l'histoire raciste de ce geste. Nous allons nous engager à toujours continuer de lutter contre la discrimination et l'intolérance en tant que parti,
discrimination
en tant que gouvernement,
and intolerance as a government, and certainly myself as an individual.
Specifically, please can you say when did you first tell your advisors you had worn the blackface makeup? And as a follow, why not have this conversation years ago? You say you learned in 2008 that this is a racist thing to do. Why not use yourself as an example and have this conversation nationally before now?
As I said, I was deeply embarrassed about those actions. And regarding my advisors, I recognize that the responsibility lies with me. It is my responsibility. The buck stops with me as party leader, and I take responsibility.
Hi, Morgan Lowry, Canadian Press. Today you're announcing a pretty significant tax cut, but at the same time your government has run successive deficits despite your promise that you would balance the budget by now. How are you going to pay for this, and how much is it going to cost?
We are continuing to reduce our debt as a size of the GDP every single year. We have a sustainable fiscal plan. We know that is important for Canadians. It's important for the world. But you don't just have to take our word for it. You can look to the international bond rating agencies like S&P and Moody's, who continue to give Canada a AAA rating for our fiscal plan, one of only about 11 countries that get that AAA rating for our approach. We will always be fiscally responsible, but we will also understand differently from Conservatives that investing in people is the best way to grow the economy, not cuts and austerity. Conservatives want to give tax breaks to the wealthiest and to big polluters. We're going to invest in people and their families because that is what is working for Canadians over the past 4 years, and that's how we continue to choose forward.
Are you projecting this will increase the deficit and put you further away from a balanced budget?
As we did in 2015, we will be releasing a fully costed plan. This year, we're able to work with the Parliamentary Budget Officer because of a commitment we made in 2015 to enable the Parliamentary Budget Officer to work with all parties on costing of platforms. And I can tell everyone that the Liberal platform will be fully costed in a transparent way, and our debt as a side of our GDP, as a proportion of our GDP will continue to decrease every year. Nous allons toujours rester responsables.
We will always remain fiscally responsible. That is a very important principle for Canadians and for the Liberal Party, and that's why we're working with the Parliamentary Budget Officer, and as all political parties can do as a result of a commitment we made in 2015, and that will show that our plan continues to be responsible not only for the future of Canadians, but by investing rather than opting for austerity like the Conservatives did.
From the Pointer. I wanted to touch upon the subject of immigration and what your government is, policies that they've put in place. 350,000 people by 2021 was the quota that has been set by your government. But I have to point out as well, Brampton and to a lesser extent Mississauga have borne the brunt of your immigration policies. What do I mean by that? Well, our infrastructure costs, our transit, our hospital, it just hasn't kept up. Will you commit today to giving Brampton its fair share funding to help deal with this influx of people?
We were very happy to be able to double the municipal tax transfer this year that goes straight to municipalities from the federal government, known as the gas tax transfer, because unfortunately in too many places across the country we had Conservative premiers in office who were dragging their heels on the kinds of investments in infrastructure that are needed by growing cities like Brampton and others across the country. That's why we're going to continue to impress upon municipalities and provinces the need to be investing in infrastructure, investing in transit, investing in housing. These are the choices that we've made to invest in our communities, contrary to the Conservatives who think that tax breaks for the wealthiest and tax breaks for big polluters are the way to go. We disagree, and we're going to keep investing, and that's the choice Canadians get to make in this coming election.
Last question.
Mr. Prime Minister, Ali Rosa from the Brampton Guardian. Just have a quick question. During the times of the blackface incident, did you have any racialized friends, and if you did, what was their response?
I have always had amazing groups of friends around me of all sorts of different backgrounds, and as I've said, this is something that that I deeply regret, and that makes me and everyone need to pledge to move forward and fight discrimination and intolerance every single day. That's exactly what our government has focused on, and that's exactly what our government will continue to focus on.
I've always had friends of many different origins and backgrounds, and the fact is we will continue to fight as a party and as a government, and myself as an individual, against intolerance and discrimination.
Merci tout le monde.